Here is something most people will never admit to themselves. You do not respect what is freely given to you. No one does. It is not a flaw in your character. It is not something you can simply decide to change by being more grateful or more aware. It is wired into you at a level far deeper than conscious thought, a psychological mechanism so ancient and so embedded that philosophers, economists, and emperors have all bumped up against it and found the same truth waiting on the other side. Human beings assign value based on what they fear losing, not what they have, not what they were given, what they are afraid to be without. Think about the last time you truly craved something, genuinely obsessively wanted it. Now ask yourself, was it scarce? Was it uncertain? Was there a real possibility that it could disappear? Almost certainly yes. And think about the last time something was handed to you freely, without condition, without resistance, and how quickly your interest faded once the uncertainty was gone. This is not romance. This is not cynicism. This is the architecture of the human mind operating exactly as it was designed to. The question is not whether this dynamic exists. The question is whether you are on the right side of it, or whether you have spent your life making yourself so available, so agreeable, so endlessly accommodating, that the people around you have quietly stopped valuing you at all. There is a pattern playing out in the lives of millions of people right now, and almost none of them can see it clearly because they are too close to it. They are generous with their time. They respond immediately. They are always available, always present, always ready to help, to listen, to accommodate. They go out of their way not to inconvenience anyone. They bend. They adjust. They make themselves easy, and they wonder why people do not seem to value them. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Constant availability is not a virtue in the social world. It is a liability. Not because people are evil or ungrateful, but because the human mind cannot sustain desire for something that faces no possibility of disappearing. When you are always there, you stop being a presence and start being a fixture. Furniture. Background. The psychologists who study influence and persuasion have confirmed what strategists and philosophers understood centuries before clinical research existed. We value things in proportion to the effort required to obtain them, and the anxiety we feel at the prospect of losing them. When there is no effort, there is no anxiety, and without anxiety, there is no perceived value. Most people never realize that they have been unconsciously training the people in their lives to take them for granted. Every time you respond the moment someone reaches out, every time you adjust your plans without being asked, every time you say yes when everything in you wanted to say no, you are sending a signal. Not the signal you intend, not I care about you. The signal you are actually sending is, I have no other options. I am always here. You cannot lose me. And once someone believes they cannot lose you, the fear dissolves. And with the fear, the respect follows to understand why scarcity creates value. Look away from relationships for a moment and look at the commodity markets. Look at the economics of luxury. Water is essential to human life. You cannot survive more than a few days without it. Diamonds are an inert carbon crystal with almost no practical utility. You could live 1,000 years without ever touching one, and yet diamonds command extraordinary prices while water, in most parts of the world, costs almost nothing. Why? Availability. Abundance destroys perceived value. Scarcity creates it. Not because the scarce thing is necessarily better, but because the mind cannot help assigning importance to what it cannot easily replace. The luxury industry understands this with a precision that borders on science. When the great fashion houses limit production of a particular bag, they are not doing so because they lack the capacity to produce more. They are engineering the psychology of their customer. A bag that anyone can walk in and purchase on a Tuesday afternoon carries a fundamentally different emotional weight than one with a years-long waiting list. The waiting list does not merely filter buyers, it creates desire. It transforms a purchase into a conquest, and people protect their conquests. They brag about them. They feel that they earned what they possess. Notice that the product itself has not changed. The stitching is the same. The leather is the same. What has changed is the context of acquisition, the difficulty, the exclusivity, the possibility of not getting it at all. Now bring this principle back to your own life and your own social world. You are a product. Not in a reductive sense, in a strategic one. You bring a particular combination of energy, intelligence, character, and presence to every interaction you are part of. And the question is not whether you are valuable. The question is whether you have positioned yourself as someone who can be easily obtained, or as someone who requires effort, who is selectively available, who cannot simply be assumed. Scarcity is not manipulation. It is an honest representation of the fact that your time and attention are finite resources. Most people give them away as if they are infinite. Then they are confused when no one guards them. Here is where many people reading this will feel resistance, because what comes next strikes closer to home than any economic analogy. Most people are addicted to approval. Not in the dramatic, obvious way of someone who cannot stop seeking compliments. In the quieter, more sophisticated way of someone who has learned to orient their behavior around what other people will think. They make decisions based on avoiding disapproval. They soften their opinions in conversation. They agree when they disagree. They perform enthusiasm they do not feel. They are endlessly careful about how they are perceived. And in being so careful, they leak status in every interaction without ever realizing it. Here is what approval-seeking communicates at the level of social psychology. Your judgment matters more than mine. Every time you adjust yourself to manage someone else's opinion of you, you are placing their evaluation above your own. And human beings are remarkably good at sensing this, even when they cannot articulate it. They feel the slight pull of someone trying to please them, and something in their estimation of that person quietly drops. The great paradox of social dynamics is this: the more visibly you want someone's approval, the less inclined they are to give it to you. This is not because people are cruel. It is because approval-seeking signals something about your internal hierarchy. It signals that you are not operating from a place of self-sufficiency, that you need something from them. And need, visible, urgent, poorly concealed need, is the single most effective way to transfer power out of your hands and into someone else's. The people who command the most respect in any room are almost never the ones working hardest to earn it. They are the ones who appear not to require it at all. Their posture is different. Their attention does not chase. Their expressions do not shift to accommodate. They hold their position, and paradoxically, this is exactly what draws others toward them. Real respect is never demanded and never earned by pleasing. It is generated by someone who is clearly operating from their own center, whose validation-seeking direction runs inward rather than outward. The trap of validation is this: the moment you make your self-worth dependent on someone else's opinion, you have handed that person a lever they did not ask for, and they will pull it, not always intentionally, but inevitably. In the ancient courts of power, whether in the imperial dynasties of China, the salons of Renaissance Italy, or the political circles of any era, the most sophisticated operators understood something that the newcomers always missed. The person who is always present stops being seen bevigdasi. Taken too far becomes invisibility of a different kind. When you are at every gathering, available for every conversation, never declining an invitation, you become part of the scenery. You are processed, not perceived. People stop noticing you not because you have disappeared, but because their minds have stopped registering you as a variable. You are a constant. Constants are not interesting. Variables are absence. Used strategically, does something remarkable to perception. It creates a space, and in that space, imagination fills the void, almost always in your favor. People begin to wonder where you are. They notice the absence before they ever consciously registered your presence. What felt ordinary when you were there suddenly feels like a gap when you are gone. This is not merely social theory. This is the mechanics of attention which operate by contrast. We notice change, not stasis. We feel cold most acutely when we have just come in from heat. We appreciate silence most after noise. The person who withholds their presence occasionally, who is selectively available rather than universally accessible, creates a contrast effect in the minds of everyone around them. Your presence becomes an event rather than a background condition, and with that shift comes respect. Not the intellectual kind, not the sort you can manufacture through impressive achievements alone, but the visceral, almost animal kind of respect that humans reserve for things they cannot quite predict, cannot quite contain. The person who is always available tells you everything about where you fall in their hierarchy of priorities. At the top, waiting, ready. The person who is sometimes unavailable tells you something else, that there are other claims on their attention, that their world does not orbit around your convenience, that you must find them when they are available and not before. That is a different kind of person to deal with. That is a person you think twice before dismissing. The Stoics, particularly the tradition that runs from Epictetus through Marcus Aurelius, were not, as is popularly believed, teaching people to feel less. They were teaching something far more precise: the art of not allowing your inner state to be controlled by external circumstances. This distinction matters enormously in the social arena. The person who reacts, who flares with anger when criticized, who collapses with anxiety when rejected, who swings with elation when praised, is broadcasting something with every reaction. They are broadcasting that the external world has direct access to their internal controls, that their emotional state is available to whoever wishes to manipulate it. This is not an abstract vulnerability. It is a practical one, because once someone knows what destabilizes you, they possess leverage. They know the levers. And whether they use that knowledge intentionally or simply stumble into it through ordinary behavior, the effect is the same. You are no longer operating from a position of autonomy. You are responsive in a way that transfers control. Emotional detachment, genuine, cultivated, practiced detachment, is the opposite of this. It does not mean coldness. It does not mean indifference. It means that your center of gravity is located inside rather than outside. That criticism can be received without being devastating. That praise can be acknowledged without becoming addictive. That rejection can be processed without reorganizing your entire sense of self. The person with this quality radiates something that others feel before they can name it. A kind of steadiness. An impression that this person will not be easily rattled, and therefore that interactions with them will not be easily weaponized. This creates a peculiar dynamic. People both trust this person more and feel slightly uneasy around them. Trust because they project reliability. Unease because their reactions cannot be predicted or engineered. This is exactly the combination that commands sustained respect. Understand, it is not the most emotional person in the room who holds power. Emotion, uncontrolled, spends itself wildly and returns nothing. It is the person who can feel deeply and still choose their response who operates from genuine strength. The one who can sit in discomfort without fleeing it, absorb a provocation without reacting to it, walk away from a negotiation that does not serve them without needing to be talked back from the edge. That person is playing a different game than everyone else. And everyone else can sense it. Even if they cannot articulate what they are sensing, there is a word that carries more strategic weight than almost any other in the arena of social power. And it is among the simplest words in any language. No, most people treat no as a last resort, an emergency brake, something you deploy when the cost of saying yes has become genuinely intolerable. They say yes by default. They say yes to requests they resent. They say yes to avoid friction, to preserve the relationship, to maintain a version of peace that is, in reality, simply the quiet accumulation of self-erasure. And then they wonder why, after years of saying yes, people do not value their yes at all. This is the arithmetic of boundaries. When everything is available, nothing is valuable. The yes of a person who never says no means nothing because it carries no information about genuine desire or genuine choice. It is simply the path of least resistance. Everyone who interacts with this person knows, at some level, that they would have said yes regardless, which means the yes is not a gift. It is a reflex. Contrast this with the yes of someone who is known to say no. When that person agrees, it lands differently. It means something. It was chosen. It was not guaranteed. There was a real possibility it would have gone the other way. And the fact that it did not is meaningful. The relationship is suddenly more real. The exchange carries weight. Boundaries are not walls. This is the crucial misunderstanding. A wall keeps everything out. A boundary is selective. It makes the things that pass through it more valuable, precisely because not everything does. A person with genuine boundaries is not less accessible. They are more meaningful to access. And here is the thing that the approval seeker never grasps. Saying no does not end relationships. It deepens them. The relationships that survive your no, the ones that do not collapse or retaliate or quietly disappear, those are the relationships built on something real. And the relationships that cannot withstand a no were never offering what you thought they were. The moment you start saying no and watching what happens, you learn something essential about your social world. Who actually respects you and who has simply been taking advantage of the fact that you never gave them reason not to. Consider what separates a luxury brand from an ordinary one. It is not always superior materials. It is not always superior craftsmanship, though these things often play a role. What truly separates luxury from ordinary is the story the brand tells about who you are for choosing it. Luxury brands do not advertise to everyone. They are designed to repel as many people as they attract. Their price points are set not merely to recover costs, but to communicate. This is not for everyone. Their marketing is exclusive by design. Their stores are intimidating to the uninitiated. Every element of the experience is calibrated to create the impression that you are entering something rarefied, and that only certain kinds of people belong here. This is a strategy, and it works with a consistency that transcends culture, era, and product category, because it is not exploiting a quirk of consumer behavior. It is operating in harmony with something fundamental to human psychology. We want what is withheld from us. We want what signals that we have made it into an inner circle. Now apply this framework to how you present yourself in the world. The person with a luxury mindset does not offer their time to anyone who asks. They do not lower their standards to maintain relationships that do not meet them. They do not hustle for the approval of people who have not earned the right to judge them. They move through the world with a quiet sense of their own worth, not arrogant, not performative, simply settled. This kind of person does not beg for opportunities. They create the impression that the opportunity is on their side, and watch as others begin to compete for access to them. They are selective about their associations. They invest deeply in a small number of relationships, rather than spreading themselves thin across a vast social network that means nothing. Selectivity is a form of self-definition. It tells the world who you are by demonstrating what you will and will not accept, and the world almost invariably rises to meet the standard you set, or it falls away. Both outcomes serve you. The most powerful position in any negotiation, in any relationship, in any professional dynamic, in any social exchange, is the position of the person who can walk away and mean it. Not theatrically, not as a bluff deployed to manufacture pressure, but genuinely, quietly, without drama, the person who has other options, other possibilities, other avenues, and who is under no compulsion to make this particular arrangement work at any price. Think about the difference in dynamic between two people negotiating a contract. One who has no other offers and needs this deal desperately, and one who has 3 other interested parties and is simply deciding which arrangement serves them best. The terms they can command are different. The respect they receive across the table is different. The way they are spoken to is different. Same person. Different position of need. Now understand. This principle is not limited to boardrooms and negotiations. It operates in friendships, in romantic partnerships, in professional hierarchies, in every human arrangement where something of value is being exchanged. The person who needs the relationship to work, who cannot imagine losing it, who has quietly made it the load-bearing wall of their entire emotional architecture, is the most controllable person in that relationship. Their fear of loss is so acute that it can be exploited, often without the other person even intending to exploit it. The need radiates. It changes the dynamics. It shifts the power, gradually and then all at once. Contrast this with the person who has cultivated what some call non-neediness. Not because they do not care, but because they have built enough internal solidity, enough alternative sources of meaning and connection, that no single relationship holds them hostage. They can say, "This isn't working," and mean it. They can tolerate the discomfort of uncertainty without collapsing into accommodation. They can let things fall away without chasing them. This is not coldness. The non-needy person can love deeply, commit fully, invest completely. What they cannot do, and what makes them fundamentally different, is surrender their self-respect to preserve an arrangement that does not honor it. And the remarkable thing is this: when you are genuinely willing to walk away, you almost never have to. People respond to the absence of desperation the way they respond to a closed door, with an urge to open it. Everything you have encountered in this video is a single idea expressed from different angles. The value of a thing is inseparable from the conditions under which it can be obtained. This is not a cynical insight. It is not a manipulation. It is simply the recognition that the world responds to what you signal about yourself, and that for most people, those signals have been, for years, quietly communicating the wrong thing. The transformation that is available to you now is not about becoming cold. It is not about performing unavailability or manufacturing artificial scarcity or playing games. Those are the crude imitations that miss the point entirely. The genuine transformation is internal. It begins with the decision that your time matters, that your presence is not a default gift extended to anyone who happens to ask for it, that your standards are real standards, not aspirational postures you abandon the moment maintaining them becomes uncomfortable. It continues with the practice of saying no, not reflexively, not to assert dominance, but as a genuine expression of what you will and will not invest yourself in. And with each no that you actually mean, something shifts. The people around you begin to recalibrate. They sense a new structure to who you are. They sense that you have become, or perhaps always were, someone who cannot simply be assumed. It deepens as you cultivate emotional sovereignty, as you stop allowing the opinions of others to determine the weather inside you, as you receive criticism without being dismantled by it, and praise without becoming addicted to it, as your center of gravity migrates from the outside world, where it has always been at the mercy of forces beyond your control, to the inside, where it belongs. And the people in your life will feel this change before they can name it. Relationships that were casual will deepen. Dynamics that were imbalanced will begin to level. Opportunities that once seemed to pass you by will start to find their way to you, because the world operates on signals, and you will have changed what you are broadcasting. Your standards. Not as a performance, as a policy. Live as though your time and attention are the most precious currencies you possess, because they are, and they are non-renewable. The ultimate form of power is not the ability to force others to respect you. It is the ability to become someone who, quietly, inevitably, by the simple fact of how they carry themselves and what they refuse to tolerate, makes respect the only natural response.